Hey, Warner Pacific family, how you doing? It's Pastor Zoe right here in front of Slatter Chapel, and it is another episode of Night Talk. And I'm excited that we are able to spend this time together. Well, this episode, we're going to talk to Marcos. He's actually a part of our student ministry team, and he does some great work, and I'm glad to have him on board. But today, we're going to talk to him about his life's experiences and how he has been able to handle and overcome obstacles. Oh, I'm so excited to talk with him, and I'm glad that you're with us. So come on in. Let's talk to Marcos together and see what he has to say. It is another episode of Night Talk. Warner Pacific family, how you doing? This is Pastor Zoe, and it is another episode of Night Talk right here in Slatter Chapel. And guess what? I got Marcos hanging out with us on today. Many of you probably have seen him around, and you about to graduate, right?
Yeah, in May.
Oh, man. Ooh, I'm glad I got you, though. I'm glad I got to snatch you before you get out of here. Man, he's been such a great help. He's actually on the chapel team, and he does a lot of photos, not just for us. I ran into him at the soccer game at the beginning of the year, and I snatched him. I was like, hey, man, can you help me out? And he was so gracious to be able to help me. But not only that, he has a great story that he wants to share with us, and I figured it would be just great for him to be with us on Night Talk. So once again, welcome, Marcos.
Thank you, Pastor Zoe. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So I just want to know a little bit about you. How did you get started? Where did you grow up at, and all of that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a hometown kid. I was born and raised here in Southeast Portland. So I grew up literally like 10 minutes from campus.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that a common theme? Because a lot of people I meet, it's kind of like they're from different places.
It's honestly not that common because, I mean, I didn't know Warner was a university or a college at first.
Okay.
It wasn't really on my radar. I didn't come about or figure it out where it came from until like near the end of my high school days.
Really?
Yeah. But once I toured here, back in like 2017 or 2018, the first time I heard about it, I was drawn to the small community and just how easy it was to get around. And I just thought, wow, this kind of just feels like a bigger version of my high school, because my high school has the same kind of energy and community engagement.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, yeah, I gotta check this out. I want to figure out how I can get here. And I mean.
Wow, so you hometown. So let me dig a little more. So how was it being born and raised in Southeast Portland? Just kind of give us a snapshot of you growing up and, different things like that. How was your typical childhood? What was going on?
Yeah. Well, I was adopted, so I didn't know my real parents. In fact, my mom was born here. She had me at 16, so she was way too young to be a mom. So right when I was about 3 years old, she was 19. My dad wasn't around when I was born, so he unfortunately got deported right when my mom was due. So he couldn't be there when I was born. So I went back to Mexico with his family, my grandparents and other siblings, and my mom wanted to reconnect in a way and kind of find him down there and kind of rebuild their relationship and stuff. So my mom tried to bring me along, but kind of abandoned me. So she went down there to Mexico and been there ever since for like 18, 19 years. So
tell me a little bit about that transition, because you say you were adopted, but so that was before you were adopted. When your mom tried to take you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were cognizant of what was going on at first, or you really didn't?
A little bit. Like I was already around what was going to be my grandparents and my adopted parents. So I call them my grandparents. They took in my mom, and they weren't planning to take care of another kid. So my mom got pregnant at a young age and kind of just left me with them.
Got you. So it wasn't like a whole thing where you had to go through this agency, which you probably had some legal things to do, but you already knew your grandparents.
Yeah, I was familiar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew them. I just didn't know, I knew when I was a kid, I have a video clip, on a VHS tape, before my mom left, I remember me and her sitting on the porch, and my grandma and grandpa's filming, and I was like, I was pointing at him. I was like, "That's not your dad." Like, what? Like, I was confused as a kid, but I figured out real quick. Like, I look different. My mom looked different. So it just that definitely played a toll in like growing up and dealing with like monitoring how to be. I look different from my adopted family, like, white grandparents.
Okay.
So it just, I know in public I got a lot of stares.
Got you. Okay. So kind of how was that done? Like, so you started understanding like, whoa, there's some things different. So you said that played a part in you growing up. So what were some of the things, or I know you said you started understanding like, man, I'm a little different. So what were some of the feelings going through you at the time?
Man, I was just anxious all the time. Like, I got a lot of anxiety. I got just people kind of bother me. I just get a lot of social anxiety. So I was always worried about what people thought of me growing up. I could kind of picture how it transitioned into like school or like being around other people or other kids. Like, I didn't have many like friends when I was younger because I was surrounded by older people all the time, like all the time. Wow. So like I was around adults my whole life, and my grandparents they really stepped in to like take care of me. Like they weren't really planning on it, but they didn't get anything legalized till I was 7. So they just had me, and they would have to say, "Oh, mom's not around," you know. And so my mom, I didn't have any contact for not even till recently, till like this past December.
Wow.
I got to see my mom.
You know, when I first saw you, and I just kind of, it's not like I was stalking you, but every time I would see you, there's what we call, you got kind of like an old soul. What I mean by that, it's like there's a maturity level with you that I'm like, it's interesting, you know?
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So tell me a little bit about school when I'm assuming you were bullied, or they just a lot of jokes, or
a little bit, yeah. Like, I got like some teasing or just kind of judged for having white parents, for not looking. You know, it was just very confusing, and people would be like, "Oh, you know, whitewash, all this." It was interesting growing up. Like, I went to a small charter school very nearby here is Portland Arthur Academy by Mount Tabor on the other side.
Wow.
So my charter school is super local. I went there. I got in by a lottery pick. Like, normally you have to pay a lot to be in there. I got super lucky. And I was one of the lottery kids to get in there and be in that school environment. And I was in a very small setting my whole life because my mom took the public school route, and then she ended up dropping out, was in gangs, did that whole route, drugs, all that stuff. And so they were like, my grandparents were like, "Oh, we don't want to put him in that situation because we don't want that risk." So they put me in a smaller school setting. That led all the way up to like middle school and high school, Mount Scott Learning Center. Changed my life, definitely helped me break out of my shell.
Okay.
And I embraced a community that, I started to learn how to be myself and embrace like my story at a younger age. And so like I got teased, I got bullied here and there, but that was like
you
in
were
elementary school, middle school. But and as time moved on, I was like, man, like I just got used to it. I was like, I know where I come from, I know my story, and I know what I dealt with. And
so how did those schools help you, like I guess middle, high school age? Yep. When was the time you could remember where there was a shift in your mind from where you were just kind of, I guess, sheepish and just trying to hide from people because of what they would say, and then you became more confident in yourself? Tell me, when did that first happen and what led to that?
It was like, it had to be like freshman year of high school. When I started fresh at Mount Scott Learning Center, like they had a middle school program, I was there. What I always like to tell people too is like, I was a follower, but I wasn't a follower of Christ. I was a follower of the wrong people. Like I wanted to be cool, I wanted to fit in, I wanted to do all that to make sure I get that like respect, because I don't know, I was seeking that. And as I hit high school, I had this whole like mindset shift. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? Like, what am I passionate for? What's my story? And I was super fortunate enough that like my high school seriously like changed my life. Like they supported me with, they had my counselors were really supportive. Like all my teachers, super close, first name basis. Like it was really nice. And what they do there is like for students is just remarkable, man. Like it's helped me break out of my shell, embrace a positive environment, and learn. Like I was 15 when I first shared my story about learning how I navigated through being adopted and not knowing my real parents and dealing with like social anxiety and all that stuff. Like it's helped me a lot.
Wow. So what was one instance that stuck out to you? Because I know you said how it helped you a lot. What's one instance at that particular institution where it was like it just grabbed hold to you, the help that you were getting, or the person or the staff member?
Yeah, so the director of my high school, he always had his eye on me when I came in as a sixth grader in that school program. And I was very serious about my academics, but I always wanted to be around the older kids and see what they were up to. So there was incidents where I was doing stuff that I knew I shouldn't have been doing, but I thought it was cool at the time.
Right.
Whatever, I'm still gonna get my school stuff done, but I want to also I don't want to be shown as like a nerd or like someone that cared about their academics. So there was a moment where the director of my high school pulls me aside one day, and he wanted to know more about like my background, like because he noticed that my family, like my father figure didn't look like me, is way older. So he was really curious. They were like, "Oh, what's your story?" And he did a fundraising thing and story highlights of students from Mount Scott called Faces of Mount Scott. Pulled me aside one day and he wanted to get to know more about where I came from, and I didn't really know how to explain my story. Like I was like, well, I didn't know my mom, I didn't know my dad, I didn't know anything much.
Wow.
So like I finally got a grasp on like what my story was, and I was like, why am I following like the wrong people? Like I started to have this self-realization of like,
wow, so that happened like internally.
Yeah, like
you were like policing yourself.
Because I knew that what I was doing was not the best, but I wanted to do it to fit in. And then I learned that I was like, you know what, like God played a huge role in my life. Like I was baptized at birth, I was brought up in the church, but I didn't really embrace what my faith was until around high school. When I was like, I'm gonna quit doing, I'm gonna be myself, figure out what it is, what are my core values, embrace my story, spread positivity, and try and be a leader.
Wow.
And I embraced that through my director pulling me aside and asking me like, what's your story? And I'm like, here it is, here's what I know. And I realized that I was like lying to my grandparents. They're here, they think they have this image of this perfect kid. Like you gotta be perfect. You're not your mom. Like don't be your mom. Like that was the guilt. That was the pressure. And I felt like I was leading towards being like my mom and being that environment of like the wrong kids. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna embrace just spreading positivity. And I remember in high school, I would always I left the mark there of like I would always tell everybody, no matter what, where they came from, like. Trying to stay positive at the end of the day. Like we all got our own stories and struggles, but we all want to we're all after the same goal of graduation and trying to figure out what we're trying to do here. And I remember I would do that after I shared my story. I just felt like I had a purpose of what I'm about and stuff, and that just shifted my whole I'm gonna focus on my academics. I'm gonna be me. And then I learned that kind of gravitated, people started gravitating towards me being myself and not being what other people were, or I'm gonna be who I am. And that kind of, there was a lot of bumps in the roads of times where I had to check myself. I wasn't perfect, but I always had that mentality of stay positive. What's the big priority here? And that led me to thinking about college. Do I want to do college? I'm the first in my family to graduate high school and then go to college.
Wow. So high school and college.
High school and college, yeah. And so I was like, well, my priority is let me finish high school, and if I can go to college, that'd be great, but I could never afford it. My family could never afford it. My adopted grandparents are survivors, they're hustlers, they're entrepreneurs, they didn't have everything. So growing up, I didn't really know what nice things were, So I definitely, when I started to learn how to, like, I want to get a job at 15. I want to get a car at this time. And then, like, I don't know, it just all, like, played into effect. And I know that for a fact that God has played a huge role. And I've embraced that in my faith over the years. And then I graduated valedictorian at my high school.
Wow.
And then
that's awesome. Man. So tell me a little bit how faith played a role. Was it a church you went to, or a pastor or a youth pastor? Like, how did you get anchored enough to say, this is the way that I'm going? And it just, you know, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the director of my high school has a faith background. He's, I believe he's I don't remember if he's Christian or Catholic, but he's a believer, and I felt a really good connection with him, and I grew up in a church as well. My adopted grandparents are around the church a lot, so I grew up in an Episcopalian church, and so I was around God a lot, but there was times where I stepped away from God, and I didn't really stop going to church. I stopped, I would forget to pray sometimes, and I realized that, man, all these things, like, are happening, like positive things. Like, I started to really pay more mind of, like, well, I think God's putting these opportunities for me, and, like, knows that I'm up to, like, I'm destined to do something, I think. And
wow, that is so awesome. So with that playing a big part, tell me about the transition between high school and college, because I know you were like, okay, I'm gonna try to graduate from high school, and almost like let the chips fall where they may. So tell us a little bit about that journey. What happened there?
Yeah. So, like, I remember saying that I didn't know Warner was a university or college at first nearby, and I wanted to stay close to Portland or my community here, just because my grandparents, they're around here. I want to make sure they're good, take care of them, because they raised me.
Wow.
So when I was knowing I was going to graduate to the top of my class, and like, college was there, like, I could almost taste college. Like, I had the opportunity, like, the scholarships, I was on it, I was applying a lot of stuff. And then that's when my director stepped up and told me, have you heard, are you faithful? Are you men of faith? Do you know the book of Acts, Acts 6? There's a scholarship that I think you'd be a great candidate for.
Wow.
And, man, God, this is what, it just shakes me, man, because he pulled me aside, told me about that scholarship. He was the reason, like, that I got the scholarship after, like, going through 3 phases, writing 5 to 6 essays, showing up to each, like, phase event, and just giving my all. And, like, his support, like, really, like, got me to be in college. Wow. Like, I got that scholarship. Here I am. It's a full need tuition, almost like a full ride scholarship. And that's the book of Acts. There's 6 other people in my cadre that got the same scholarship. Only 14 students get selected in the state, 7 for Warner and 7 for George Fox.
Wow.
And it just, it's crazy. It blows my mind, because it's like the trusted 7 that go out into the I believe in the community to go on the adventure, explore, and then come back to educate their village or community. I can't remember the exact. But the book of Acts,
Man, that is so awesome. So really, you're seeing God's love in action. And I think sometimes in our lives, when we know, like, all of us fall short, and it's like, he still does this for me. And it just kind of, like, blows you away. And I'm just really enamored by your story, because I just didn't know all of this. And obviously we talked about doing this interview, and I was like, don't tell me anything. I want to know it fresh, you know? Yeah. But this is just remarkable, and just shows us that we're literally sitting next to a miracle.
Yeah.
And if we just open up and talk to each other about our stories, I think we have more in common than not. And that's just really important. And I mean, I'm pretty sure, going back to your childhood, some things were probably pretty traumatic, and you were trying to figure things out. And to move from that to all of us get help, but literally you grabbing your life by the horns and saying, I'm gonna do this. And I know you've had help from different people, but I really applaud you for just like, no, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You know, that means a lot. And even you have some entrepreneurial pursuits that you're doing right now with photography and videography and all of that. And you told me you getting some clients in there, right?
Man, it's a blessing, man. I just, it blows my mind. I mean, I'm getting baptized on November 13th.
Really?
Yeah. They're coming up the next month. And I think just this leading up to like my college journey here, it's my senior year, like I was called to come here. I felt it. Like I couldn't, like I remember saying earlier that Warner, like if there was an opportunity to go to college, I was gonna take, like I was definitely take it, but I couldn't afford to go to school. My grandparents couldn't afford me to go to school. Like it was a scholarship or nothing. So that's when God just acted and was like, here's this opportunity. My director pulls me aside, Act 6, I'm gonna help you with this.
Yes.
I was like, I'll apply, I'll put in the work, and he was there to guide me. Next thing you know, I get the scholarship. I'm able to go to the school that I wanted to go to at first. And I'm here, and like being here, learning about who I am more, discovering what my core values are, my passions, my faith, being in a faith-based institution, like it just all transformed like how I not only see my faith, how much they played a role in my life, but also like the people around me.
Wow. And
just being in a really tight-knit community like this, that's just supportive, encouraging, positive, like that's what it was all about. And man, it's all played into effect. And I thank God, like I'm honored. I discovered my new church through here.
Wow.
It's a domino effect, like it's just one thing to another.
Yes.
And I'm like, God's planting these things here, and I'm like, dude, it's like this is lining up.
Wow.
And it just blows my mind every time. So I give my life to Him, and like I trust that like every day, man. I just trust Him. I trust the process. I trust like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Like God's got me. I gotta handle my things. I gotta handle what I need to do, my priorities. But like just at the end of the day, overall big picture is that He's there. Yes. And He is my reassurance. Just changed my life, man.
I love it. Wow.
Crazy.
I guess the only thing I have left to say is this. Why don't you just take a few seconds and tell your peers or whoever's watching this, you know, for you to get from where you started to you graduating this year. Somebody might be going through something right now, and what's your advice to them? How do I get from point A to the other side?
I got a lot of things I've learned, man. It's like just don't be afraid of failure is a big thing, and that's in everything. And at the end of the day, you are going to be okay. I know a lot of people go through worse things. You may be dealing with something right now, but I've learned that in the down times that I've had is like it's temporary. It's like it's a mindset thing, and then I continue to keep moving. You got to keep moving. Life doesn't slow down. Really count on those people that care about you and that are there for you and love you. You know, whether it's family problems or whatever you're going through, like hopefully you got that love and support. I'd embrace that. Embrace the people that support you, and really dive into those opportunities. When you see a good opportunity that you may feel is right for you, I say take it. Like try things, take risks. And this is a number of things that I've learned that I've tried that has been just helping me along my journey and my story. And embrace you. Don't be somebody you're not. Just be real. Like just embrace your story, embrace who you are, because you never know who you could inspire. Or I mean, that's the reason why I want to sit down. I think it's good to inspire and share who you are with the community and with people, because it's just how we can connect and relate and support one another, and also be just along for the ride too. So,
wow, I love it. I love it. I have absolutely nothing to add to that. Nothing to add to that. This is why we do this. It's about your stories. You know, you can be walking by your peers and not even understand the story, and you're walking right past the miracle. This is a blessing. You're a blessing. And I'm excited about your entrepreneurial pursuits and the things that you're going after. And the reason I'm excited about it is because although we have shortcomings, but you are a man of character. And when you have character, the gift that God has placed on the inside of you will be able to sustain you, and you'll be able to make it, because a gift can do one or two things without character or with character. It can enhance who God has called you to be, or it can destroy you. It's like sticking something in a socket. You know, you can plug in a light or you can stick a clothespin in there and get electrocuted. It's up to you. The power is neutral, but I'm glad that you're using yours for the glory of God, and we're encouraging you to do the same. So thank you for hanging out with us here at Night Talk with Marcos. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor,
for hanging out, and I appreciate everything that you do. Man, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without you on the chapel team. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you.
Well, we want you to hang out with us again for another episode of Night Talk. I will see you then. God bless.